Hello, my friends. I am very excited to introduce you to an amazing woman named Katrina Hase.
I'm walking on sunshine.
She is a bikepacking, YouTubing, bird-watching, ballet dancing badass, and she's the very first recipient of our Womens Trailblazer Grant Program.
Yeah!
Now let me take you back a few steps in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Last May 2025, I teamed up with Priority Bicycles to give out a grant worth $5,000 in gear. We are looking for amazing people to apply for our grant so that we can give you gear and money so that you can go on your dream adventure and tell some awesome stories. Our goal with this grant was to shine a light on women creators who are inspiring us all to get out there. We didn't really know what the response would be, but we got 60 submissions from incredible women from all over the country. And over the past several months, we've conducted interviews with the inspiring finalists, and this long process led us to Katrina. She's fairly new to the world of bikes. She got into cycling in 2017, and what impressed us most was her fearless desire to challenge herself and document the process.
This is my story about racing Despair. Despair is a mid-distance option of Ozark Gravel Dune.
And check this out. Her very first bikepacking adventure was on the 2,700-mile Great Divide mountain bike route. And one of my favorite videos of hers is when she rode the Monumental Loop in New Mexico with her son. You all know I'm a mama's boy, so this one was extra special.
It's a little windy, but I got my boy.
She now has almost 70 videos on her channel, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that they're all amazing. If you want to be inspired, subscribe to her channel right now.
Yeah!
And instead of me sitting here telling you about her, we thought it would be more engaging for Katrina to tell her own story. But before we get into the interview, I want to thank Connor from Priority Bicycles for making this grant a reality. Priority Bicycles is the real deal. There's a reason why I love them so much. I'd also like to thank everyone for taking the time to apply. And if you're sitting there thinking that you'd like a shot at this grant, stay tuned. We'll be announcing round 2 later this year. Okay. Here goes. Get ready to be inspired by Katrina Hase, and don't forget to subscribe to her YouTube channel and follow her on Instagram, right here, wherever I can put it, and also down below I will link her socials. Here we go.
How are you feeling as far as, winning a Trailblazer grant, and what's your mindset as you head into this year?
Well, first of all, I'm really stoked to get my feet on the pedals of that new ADX. I'm just thrilled to be able to finally try out the Pinion Gates drivetrain. I love that it's low maintenance, and I love the first look at the bike is it's so upright. It looks so comfortable. I feel like I can just ride it all day. So I'm really stoked to get out there and adventure on that. And it's just something that I've always been curious about, but it's expensive buying a new bike. So it's thrilling that I can finally give that a try. So the bike, and then also feeling seen by both yourself and by Ryan, and having this recognition that the work that I'm doing is pretty good, and that you guys believe in me. It makes me believe in myself even more, and really excited to just share more adventures, share more stories.
How'd you find yourself sharing your adventures in bikepacking and adventuring?
Well, it was never intentional. In 2023, I set out to ride the Great Divide mountain bike route because I had seen it several winters before watching Ryan Van Duzer's videos, and I became aware of it. I fell in love with it. I studied the route. I got super stoked about doing it. And then right before it was about time to get going, I discovered my mom had colon cancer. And, at first I thought about, do I need to stay? Does she need me here? My mom said, no, go, live your life, and we'll follow you vicariously. So I had a tracker. She followed my tracker, but it became just really important to me to be able to show her what I was seeing and what I was doing. And, as I did the ride, she got so excited and would always like be looking up and asking me questions about what I was doing. So I knew when I got back, I wanted to put together a video, not only just for my mom so she could see what was going on, but also to help me process the whole experience, because I kept a journal every single day while I was on the route, because any kind of adventure that we do is really fleeting. You're in it for the moment and it feels like a long time, but then I knew it was going to be over, and I didn't want to forget it because it was going to be such a significant experience, and I didn't know when I'd ever be able to do something like that again. So yeah, that combination of sharing it with my mom, sharing it with my husband, sharing it with my family, and then processing that whole experience kind of led me to making the videos. And I was kind of shocked at how well received they were. I did not anticipate that. I mean, they just kind of took off, and I hadn't even made the rest of the videos, and people were asking me when the second edition was coming out or the third edition. So I knew I had my hands full at that point, but just amazing, lovely feedback from people that it was helpful to them to plan their own trips. And it kept me going. And I love watching my videos too, because it helps me remember what happened, in that occasion. So
most people start their bikepacking journey by like commuting to work. But you started on the divide. What was that process like? Like, why did you choose that? Like, why was that the thing that kind of called you out there to find something that was that challenging?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, I didn't commute because I'm a graphic designer and I work at home. So I think maybe the answer might come back to I was an empty nester. My son moved out, went to college. It was just my husband and I worked at home all day by myself. So it was something that I could look forward to, something that I could build to, and just kind of dive in. I've been an avid cyclist. I always dreamed about putting bags on my bikes, but during the pandemic, I did a lot of research. I had time, and it seemed like a possibility to do it. So yeah, the best way to make something happen is to say it out loud, and everything followed from there.
Like, what are some of the things that that you've probably had a chance to think about that, and maybe even with some self-reflection or some feedback or questions, but what are the things for women that they have to take into account within this world of adventuring and bikepacking?
Sure. I think, the number one thing that people ask me about is the concept of fear. How do you get past that fear of traveling by yourself? And yeah, it was real in the beginning. I thought about that. I thought about my safety. But for my very first overnighter, I just went in prepared. I had the gear that I needed. I had the knowledge of the area and what could happen. And then there was just this element of accepting that risk and knowing that if I was going to do exciting, fun things, I was going to have to put a little bit of trust out there in the universe too. But really, it's no different. Women travel through the world every single day, kind of looking over their shoulder. We have a pretty well-tuned sense of where the danger is. And I don't think that's any different from when you're walking down the street in the city to when you're in a campground. So as long as you go in prepared, I don't think it's something that you have to be over concerned about. And I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but until you actually do it, you might not believe it. But the reports are overwhelmingly positive from women who go bikepacking by themselves or in a group, that they felt safe and that people are better than they expect they would be. And I've made so many friends on trips, male and female, that if I had given into that fear, I wouldn't have today. So there's an element that you just have to go do it.
Going in blind on anything is always sometimes easiest. Obviously you're prepared, but you don't know how it's going to feel and how it's going to go. And, everybody overpacks the first time, like just things like that. But what are some of the things you feel like you've learned in the last few years about adventuring and bikepacking? Or like, what are the things you feel like people ask you about that you didn't even know that you have responses to help them out?
Ooh, well, first of all, I don't think overpacking is a problem. It's just heavier. But if you want to overpack, go ahead and overpack. You know, bring everything. As long as you can pedal up the hill, that's fine. If it makes you more comfortable, you know, I've dropped things as I've gone along, but I probably would have brought everything I ever brought on the divide, and you know, it just depends on the type of trip. So first of all, put the worries about like what your setup looks like, or how other people will perceive your setup, and just, you know, believe in what you've assembled for yourself. And it's never the same for me from one trip to the next. So don't get hung up on that kind of thing. I think a huge thing, a learning curve for me has been maps, and you know, making maps your friend. You know, I'm not one to plan a journey every single second, and you know, like this day I'm going to sleep in this exact spot, or I know I want to be what am I trying to say? I don't plan to the down to the T when I do a trip. I like to keep things a little bit open, and I find that to be really a good approach if you're familiar with the route and you're familiar with like where the water is, where the resupplies are, and then you don't have to be overly concerned about making every single mark. So yeah, having the maps is really key. I always have multiple maps. I download, you know, the Ride with GPS files. I have a bike computer that I help with me. I use the Gaia system and download the map to that as well. If I have a paper map, you know, that's nice to be able to refer to too. But yeah, having the knowledge makes you be able to adapt to a number of situations, and gives you the confidence to travel without worry.
What are the things that you want people to take away from your content when they watch it?
Well, first of all, I want them to see the nature that I see and want to connect with it, and then hopefully want to love it like I do, you know, and take care of it. That's critical. But also, yeah, I would love it if they could see how bikepacking can connect you to the larger community and the culture that you're riding through. And that's a very special thing. When you're traveling slowly, you're open to being vulnerable. By putting yourself in other people's hands, by accepting help, it gives them the gift of being able to be a helper. We kind of forget that in our own lives. You know, when you do something really nice for somebody and it makes you feel good, having that ability to give that gift to someone else is something that's really unique to bikepacking, and that people don't really think or talk about as much.
What's on your bikepacking calendar? What's on your adventure calendar this year?
Well, I have a number of small and large goals, and some of them are still shaping out. My biggest one is I'm going to be riding the Colorado Trail. It's something I've been working up to ever since the Great Divide, and I feel like I finally have the sense of how difficult it's going to be, and also that I have the ability to do it. So that's what I want to tackle. And before that, just working up to it, I want to do a lot of overnighters. I'm hoping to do an overnighter with some gals in high school that are in the Minneapolis area. Would love to do that. And I'm going to be strapping my ADX onto my raft and try taking it bike rafting for the first time. That's something I've been really anxious to give a go. So looking at maybe traveling down to Arkansas to do that in the Buffalo River area, and some local trips in Minnesota. So those are immediate ones, but very exciting, fun things coming up.
You talked about, there was something interesting when we met along the first time or second time, and there was the ride, I forget which one it is, that you have done twice but haven't completed it.
Yes, that would be the Grand Loop in Colorado.
You said something that was interesting that you don't hear a lot from people, but you want to go back and accomplish the Grand Loop, and you said it keeps calling you back. What does that mean, right? Because I think, you know, obviously, like, we run from failure just as people, especially now, like in social media. You never want to show the hard times. And I mean, it's something for me that like Ryan has been very helpful with, is like showing that like things aren't always easy and that you fail sometimes. And but also on the flip side of that, like if you want the reward of the accomplishment, even if it's just finding the top of the hill, you're opting in on it. So you got to take both sides. But yeah, like when you talked about that, you've done it twice. You said it's calling you back. Like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, there's something about, a lot of my bikepacking trips they're fun, and you're doing a tour and it can be relaxing. Most of them end up hard in some way or another. But then there's this other side of me that's always trying to push what I'm able to do on the bike. And one of the hardest things that I've come across is the Grand Loop bikepacking route, which loops the Tabawash, the Kokopelli, and the Paradox trails in Colorado. There's one resupply on the entire route. So what it forces you to do is pack a bike that can be up to 4 or 5 days out in the wilderness, just to cover yourself in case you can't get somewhere, if you have a mechanical or something like that. And the challenge of trying to pack your bike and then actually do the route, and then teach yourself skills like how to filter stilty water, and how to keep yourself cool, how to ride in the night if you need to. There's just so many challenges within that it just clicks all the boxes in my brain, and I just can't stop thinking about, how can I improve? And every time I've done it, each time I've done it, I've learned a little bit more about the route, and that's what calls me back. It's just, how can I apply that knowledge that I've already learned and get further this time, and finish.
This is more of a fun one. You've seen my videos. Sometimes I talk to myself to pump myself up. I talk to my shadow. I've got my no crashies, ole ole, just to like build the spirits. What do you say to yourself when times are hard to get you through it?
I have a few. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is, I pretend that the flowers are cheering for me. So like if I'm on a big climb, I will stop looking ahead up the hill at that climb, and I look at the flowers, and I imagine that they're like an audience and they are like cheering me on. So that's pretty silly and pretty abstract, but it works. Also, just start naming them or counting them, or coming up with my own names for the flowers. So I'm always grateful when I'm on a route that has flowers, because I can distract myself that way. But other than that, the longer I've been doing this, the more I realize I've been here before. I've done this, I've seen this, and I will get through it. The hard times only last so long in a bikepacking trip, and then you get to the top of the hill and you get to coast down. So, you might be hating your life, but then you're loving life. So you just have to remember it's coming.
So not only are you creating videos for yourself, to share with your family and your friends, and to watch 20 years down the line and say, look what I did, but you're creating videos to promote other women in bikepacking. I just watched your recent video on the Monumental Loop. Why is it important for you to show more women out there doing these things?
The Monumental Loop one was super special for me, because not only was it 3 accomplished women doing a bikepacking trip together, but it was 3 women who also didn't really know each other very well before the trip. I knew my friend Kendra, but one I hadn't even met till before I started. So it's kind of spotlighting the ability of the bike to bring people together and build friendships, which I loved. The other thing is, and my friend Kendra gave me permission to tell that her age is 67. And she is the one that, in that video, that you can see clearing a really hard climb that was just technically challenging. 67 years old. And when I see Kendra, I just see somebody that I looked up to enormously. And I want people to know that, we aren't these, when you get a little bit older, you're not retire to a yoga class. You can still be out there doing these things. So it's not too late for women to start. it's not too scary to be a woman and be a bike packer. And if you find people that have the will to go bikepacking, you can take that challenge on together and you can build community, build friendships. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to achieve.
I love it. Yeah. There's a reason why we chose you.
Awesome.
I know. I want to get out and ride right now, but it's
Yeah.
-2 degrees. But I am inspired. I am inspired.